Welcome to the weekly message from Unity North Tampa, presented here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today's message is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Release, the Law of Service, and was recorded on Sunday, October 9th, 2022.
Today is a great day. I'm super excited to be doing my book. Friends, the amount of hours and time and research and love and spiritual experience that went into writing this book is a lot. And we started the series last week with the law of giving, didn't we? And we said, God's will for me is good. Will you say that with me? God's will for me is good. And I believe God's will is not only good for me, but everybody. Everybody. So even people I disagree with, God's will for them is good too. Especially people that don't have, God's will is good for them too. Yeah. So what I love about the Unity teachings is we're all about personal empowerment, but sometimes we forget about those that have never heard these teachings, that are living on the street, that have never ever heard that God loves them. Maybe they're stuck in issues of mental health that are undiagnosed. Maybe they have some kind of special need and are not able to make it in the world. Maybe they're addicted to drugs and alcohol. You say, why are you saying all this? I thought we were talking about spiritual laws. Yes, we are. And the scripture says, if you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. So what I've noticed in many Unity ministries that's missing is outreach. We're so busy going this way, which I love, that we forget to go outward. Now, the church I grew up in, we were so busy going outward, we forgot to go here. Right? I grew up in the Methodist church. It was a wonderful beginning. I went to school at a Baptist school. I was educated at a free Methodist college. So I got a little bit of everything. But what I've noticed is sometimes we get so busy doing outreach, we forget why we're doing it or what the purpose is, and we forget to empower. And in Unity, we've gone so big about the personal empowerment, we forget to go outward and go get them. Right? To minister, to help, support. And in our beginnings, Charles Fillmore said it's a sin to be poor. So it's like, well, what do I do with that then? Of course, the idea was that what he was saying is if you know truth and don't embody it, that's the problem. That wasn't meaning don't go help. Right? And what's so interesting about our ministry now and my personal ministry that I have outside of here, my podcast, we have people listening in over 90 countries around the world. All around the world. One of the people that watches every week is my friend in Uganda. He and his wife are helping hundreds of kids every single week. So there's a lot more we can do. So last week we were talking about the law of giving. It was really personal. It was about where am I spending? How am I giving those funds that come in? How am I using my good both to further the work of spiritual centers or those people and places that support me? But am I in alignment with my finances and using that good to help others and also to see that money, right, to be in the flow with my finances? And so we were saying God's will for me is good. Yes, I'm worthy. And wherever we are, God is. Wherever we are, there is abundance. And so today we're taking a little bit deeper about, and today is called the law of service. The law of service. So what I want to help us all understand and continue to reframe is we are not just an individual. We're not just a person here to work, pay taxes, and die. We are a soul. You've seen a couple of those shirts in the books, are only 2 left, that say, I am soul. Say with me, I am soul. Together, I am soul. Yeah, so I have a body, but I am soul. Right? I am soul. And so not only are you an individual soul, meaning that you have a certain thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your ideas, those are particular to you in your journey. But you're also part of the collective soul. And that's number 1, the personal and the collective soul. So when you start waking up to the spiritual ideas, I'm talking about that God is everywhere, that God's will for me is good. then you start to realize there's more than just you. There is the one. So in other words, I'm not just a person. Again, hear me. You're not here to just work, pay taxes, and die. You're here to leave the world better than you found it. You're here to live an abundant life. You're here to give of yourself so you grow and so those around you can grow and evolve as well. So sometimes we forget that part. We're like, oh yes, I want to go and I want to take classes and I want to read, and that's perfect. But rather than just the one, we need to also connect with the one that includes the many. So you are both a personal soul and part of this collective soul we call humanity. So this might be a new idea for you. You know, if you grew up in a country like India, you would grow up knowing this. Because Hinduism is the oldest religion in the world, and there's always been an understanding that there's a personal and a collective soul. Even the family you're born into is another collective soul. The family you find yourself in is a collective soul. The family you marry into is another collective soul. You see that? In other words, anytime you find yourself in a group of people, this ministry right here, right now, is a collective soul. Right? But you're also part of the soul that is humanity. Once you start waking up to your true nature, you can't help but want to help others, because that's what your true nature is to give, not to get. And we've all known those people who have been takers in life, right? It's like all they ever want to do is take. Right? We've maybe even been those people at times. But now we've woken up and we realize, oh no, I'm supposed to be a giver to life, not a taker. Yeah, so the law of service is about realizing your responsibility within the collective soul. That you have a responsibility to be of service. And this spiritual law is so amazing because as you begin to serve others, it shifts your feeling of worthiness. Now here's why that is. When you start serving others, you begin to believe you actually have something to give. And so one of my concerns about our society right now is everyone is so self-focused. It's what I want and I want and I want, and I can get it in 0.03 seconds by pressing a button, that we've forgotten there's other people that might need a little something around us. And we say, oh, isn't that so bad? I think I'm going to go buy something else so I feel better about it. Say, you know I'm speaking the truth up here. So now as I'm saying all this, am I saying that it doesn't mean that people on the streets don't also have personal responsibility? Yes, they do. They do, most definitely. But sometimes they don't know what that is. And that's our job to help them see it. See? So there's no one to blame. The only reason there's people in need is because we hold thoughts of need. That's the only reason. We haven't figured out how to properly distribute what's already here. So there is a personal and a collective soul. So what we are seeking to find is what is our place in the collective, what is our individual soul journey to help, support, uplift, and serve. And we're going to get to some of my master teachers in just a moment. Let's go to number 2. So I talked a little bit about this, that modern society right now is about me, 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 me. And if you're not sure, look at your news feed. It's all about what I want, what they did, and what they didn't do, and how that affects me. And the one with the most toys wins. Right? So that's our modern society. So we've almost forgotten there is a service component. And, you know, I realize I'm sounding a little old as I say this, but when I grew up, service was just a part of living. It was just a part of living. If your neighbor had a storm, you went to see if everybody was okay. You know, I live in one of the wealthiest communities in Orlando, and not a single neighbor has come to see if I'm okay. Not a single one. Isn't that interesting? And I know them. I say hello. I'm always walking my dog and making noise around the neighborhood. Yeah. They know me, yes. So don't you think that's interesting? Now, when I grew up, that never would have been the case, no matter what your socioeconomic status. So I'm not saying, those were the good old days. No, those were not the good old days, but that thing was good. So I feel like we've lost a little bit of that. And so as a spiritual community, we want to rise above what regular society is doing. We want to have a different way of being. I've had people tell me recently, my friend said, I want what you've got. You seem happy. Right? That's because, right, we are learning, we're waking up to our goodness, our wholeness, that we're spiritual, that we have something to give. Right? So you're not going to see a lot of what I'm talking about with service reflected in society today. What you're going to see a lot of today is picketing and yelling about injustice. Now, do I believe there are injustices? I do. But I don't think the way to fix them is to hit you over the head with my peace sign. Right? It's about peace. Don't you get it? Right? Yeah, something's wrong with that. So it doesn't mean we don't stand up for what we believe in. It does not mean we don't protect ourselves. It does not mean that. It means that we want to be real mindful as we're seeking to see changes in our community, that we're not just in all this anger and resistance, because as soon as we do that, then we've joined with the very thing that we want to rid ourselves of, you see. So this law of service is about serving the highest for all, not just what I want. Yeah, and so sometimes in spiritual community this happens. Like somebody will come up to me and say, although this has not happened lately, I've had really nice feedback about the music. I'll say in my former ministry, somebody would come up and say, I just don't like the music. And I go, yeah, tell me about that. Well, I just don't like it. Okay, what about it? It's too loud. I said, okay. Are you sitting near the speakers? I always sit there. Okay. I understand. What if I told you that type of music is what helps our church feel vital and grow? Oh. Well, I still don't like it. I say, I know, tell me what you do like, and let's see if we can put some of that into. But I'm going to need your support in knowing that as we bring in new music, as we bring in guest artists, as we build a band, that when you're younger, you want to move a little bit to the music. You want to feel it, Music, for a lot of us, what gets us through the day, our playlist of songs we like. You go work out, you got music you listen to. Right? Oh, so I say, so even though I want you to get your needs met here, it's about meeting the needs of the entire community growing. Oh, see what I mean? So that's how it relates to something we do all the time. Oh, and by the way, I had the funniest experience. This is a few years ago. I went in. I don't know if you have these over here. They're called salt rooms. Do you have those over here? And they're really good for helping heal allergies and things like that. Anyway, I walked into one and I went in with my son because he was really struggling with allergies, and we just learned he had all these allergies. Anyway, so we went in, and the woman behind the counter, I was saying something, and she turned around and she said, I know this is weird, but I know your voice. I said, that is weird. And she goes, Is that odd to say? I feel like I know you, but I've never seen you before. I said, I don't know. And she goes, oh my gosh, are you Cynthia Alice Anderson? And I was just, playing with her. I said, I am. And she said, I work out to you every day. How cool is that? Right? So she's in her workout, putting all these positive thoughts in. Then she'll do her little music, and then she'll put more positive thoughts in. See? So it's one way I'm serving the collective. I love that. Never seen me before. No idea. But she knew my voice. All right. So that's number 2, modern society and service. So I want us to start moving forward in our work to say, how can we move How can we move from thinking about just me to the collective? Let's look at number 3. Oh, I forgot about that quote. That's a great quote, though, because let's just read it together. Read it with me. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking. Used when we created. Evidently, I was tired when I typed that. I like the same kind of thinking we sued when created them. But, oh, boy. Your minister is not perfect. There's proof right there. Oh, boy. All right. So, in other words, we're trying to provide a new way of thinking. I think that was Albert Einstein who said that, actually. But all the greatest minds have said something like that, right? We have to think of a new way. So often I've been in minister meetings and, we are in what's called New Thought. Unity is part of the umbrella of New Thought churches. And I was at one time in a meeting at Unity Village, and the vice president of this and that were there. And we were talking about trying to bring back the magazine We Wisdom, for kids. And they kept saying, well, we did it this way. We did it that way in the past and all that. And I finally said, well, since we're in New Thought, let's have one. Just one. And everybody was like, okay. I said, I know somebody's getting mad when I say this, but since we're in New Thought, let's have one. Maybe there's a new way to do this, right? So when I'm thinking of service, I think of these masters that I've studied over the years. And one of the top masters of service that I've studied, that I've just loved my whole life, is Mother Teresa. There's none other I know any bigger, any better, a more humble. And she would say, the body of Christ is carefully disguised in the bodies of the poor. Isn't that beautiful? So in other words, it didn't matter where she looked, she saw Christ. That's our teaching, friends. We say God's everywhere and that Christ is present in you, present in everyone. So think about that. That's one of the greatest servants of humanity. So that the Christ is everywhere. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we think of as a civil rights leader and activist, but the truth is, he was about fair wages for everyone, and towards the end of his life, that's what got him killed. It wasn't about rights for blacks only. It was, any of you old enough to remember the Poor People's Campaign? He even went to Memphis and, was helping garbage workers. Well, that was largely poor whites. Right? So what got him killed was not civil rights. It was, rights for blacks. It was actually that he was trying to include everybody in that. That felt a little too dangerous. But I mean, this is the type of service to humanity I'm talking about. When figures are this big, it's hard to miss. And what I'm saying is, that's our job. So it may not be at that level, but what about what we can do where we are in a grander way? Right? We know about Mahatma Gandhi. I wanted to talk a little bit about Sai Baba, who very simply says, love all, serve all. So simple. Free hospital. I think there are 3 free hospitals in India that Sai Baba set up. Can you imagine a free hospital? I can't even hardly imagine it in this world we live in today. But sometimes when we look at leaders like this, it's easy to think, well, I could never do that. All right, so let me tell you about a couple things you could do. So probably in my life, my best teachers of service were my 2 parents and Mr. Willie. And Mr. Willie was like another dad. Mr. Willie was my dad's best friend, and he was black and would only come through our back door when he came to our house. His daughter was in Girl Scouts with me, and he taught my brother shop in school. I just talked to him the other day. We're still in contact. I've known him my whole life. But Mr. Willie, in his early days, served in the Peace Corps. He went to Cameroon. And he would come into my Girl Scout troop and tell us about that. And there were only 9 girls in our Girl Scout troop, and 6 joined the Peace Corps. And I did mission work in Brazil. all after hearing Mr. Willie. He also served his country in the National Guard, and to this day, in his 80s, is still serving. There's some special branch for people like Willie that just won't stop. He also worked with Jimmy Carter and Millard Fuller in Habitat for Humanity. He still is building with Habitat for Humanity. Still in his 80s. And at the same time, he still remembered my oldest brother, who's in his 60s, what his favorite wood was, and called him the other day and said, "Buddy, I know you're retired. Come over here. I've got some walnut for you to work with." What a soul. You see that? He's always doing the work of the collective, but he's still remembering this person, that person. Yeah. But we don't serve just for the sake to serve. We do it because it's a highest spiritual call. So when I was a kid, one of the things we did, and my mom was very intent on us learning that everyone had value. And so we would serve at homeless soup kitchens. We would hand out government surplus food. We lived right next to the housing projects. And frankly, we did not have much. And we were not the rich kids. Friends, there were 9 of us. I got the hand-me-downs of the hand-me-downs of the hand-me-downs because I was the youngest. It was not a lot. But one thing we learned is everyone has value. And the way we learned it was we were going to serve at the soup kitchen downtown. It was right near Ebenezer Baptist, actually, where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King had spoken and was the minister. But we were going down there. She said, "Now, honey, I want you to remember something." And, you know, when my mom would get this look, you knew this was a big teaching coming on, like pay attention. And you were in the car, you know what I mean? Nowhere to go. You had to listen. It was before cell phones. We couldn't check out, you know. She said, "Now I want you to remember something. Now, whoever speaks to you, you say, 'Yes, ma'am,' 'No, ma'am,' 'Yes, sir,' 'No, sir.' You hear me?" And that's what I said. It's right in my book. I said, "Yes, ma'am." I got it. So we got there, and I mean, the smell in that place. It was hard as a kid, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, you know, and people are coming in all these coats and things and dirty and smelly, and the food was, I couldn't imagine having to eat it. And my mom was pouring something, and I guess somebody asked me a question. I just said yes, and she goes, and I said, "I mean, yes, sir." And I was like, got it. So then that was, you know, throughout the day, somebody asked a question, "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am," "Yes, sir." And I had somebody cry because they'd never been respected as a homeless person. So we've never been treated with such care and grace. Now, I wasn't doing that naturally. I had to be taught, right? I had to be taught. I saw my dad get more people jobs than staffing agencies today. "Son, you need a job? What do you do? Let me see if I can help you out with that." Yeah, just like daily, just helping this one, helping that one. One time my dad came home and my mom said, "Honey, where's your shirt?" She said, "That was your $1,000 order shirt you had on." My dad at that time was a salesman on the road for a company called Big Four. They sold tires. And so he'd go to these businesses and sell, and he had this special shirt he'd wear. And every time he wore it, he would do a $1,000 order. And that was a lot of money back then. And so he came home, and he just had on this little undershirt. And she said, "Where's your shirt?" He said, I gave it away. She said, "What'd you do that for?" "That was your $1,000 order shirt." He said, "Well, we can get another one." She said, "Well, where is it?" He said, "Well, I gave it to somebody that needed it way more than me." Just off his back, literally. He said, "It's probably not the shirt anyway that got me that $1,000 order." Yeah, see, just little ways of being of service. So today, for you, how are you being called? Where are you being called to serve? It may not be here, but it may be here. It may be, if you're an athlete, it may be helping young kids learn how to do a thing. If you're a woodworker, as I talked to my brother recently, I said, it'd be really cool with all your good woodworking if you teach youngins how to do that. Nobody teaches kids that anymore. How cool would that be? So you stay around me too long, I'm going to start asking you, what's your gift to give? Because friends, this is not a taker church. This is a giving church. This is your community. Let's make it as much as we can, and then let's go out. We're going to be, a place of peace. Yes, a place of healing. Yes. And part of that peace, part of that healing is helping our community at large. I love that now we have, is it 2 or 3 groups now that are going to be using our center for meditation. There's now a Buddhist group that's going to start this Wednesday night. They're going to do 6 weeks. Incredible leader who's helped start Buddhist centers all around the country. And they're going to use our church here now. It's another way we can serve. She said, we love Unity. You're so open with your hearts and your buildings, and we feel loved and accepted here. Yes, we're going to serve that way. So how are you called to serve? Where are you called to serve? If you have a gift, it's yours to give it. Like men, I want you to really think about, we've had a couple little starts to a men's group. Our kids need a playground. Young kids need to see men that love God. What are we doing with that? Well, right now, nothing. Think about that, men. Are you being called to something? Doesn't have to be here, but it might be. It might be. So think about where you're being called to serve, and you don't have to be loud about it. My parents, I never heard them once talking about people they helped. But every night at dinner, another place was set. I said, who's that for? Oh, I just saw Martha at the thing and she's having a tough day, so I invited her for dinner. You better get 2 more plates. Pastor just called. He and his wife are coming over. Y'all are going to have a kids' table. Adult table's full now. Always room for 1 more. 2 more. So where are you being called to serve? Realizing this is our sacred spiritual duty. And what's so amazing is, as we serve, we feel worthy. As we serve, we feel blessed. As we serve, we're releasing God's good energy into the universe. Isn't this amazing?
Thank you for listening to the weekly message from Unity North Tampa here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com. This message is copyright 2022, Unity North Tampa, all rights reserved. Our theme music, The Light of God, is composed by Shannon Croft and used with permission and available at shannoncroft.com. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.